Hey everyone, Russell Gray, co-host of the Real Estate Guys radio show, here for video number 4 in our 8-part series, 8 steps in how to scale your syndication business. And today we're going to be talking about 4 key pillars to scaling your syndication business. And here to help us do that, from organized to scale, is Staci Gray. Hey, Staci.
Hi there.
Having a good time doing this series with you, as always, learning a lot and having a ton of fun. And obviously extremely proud of the work that you do. And it just is gratifying for me to see how many syndicators are actually finding success by taking their dreams and getting some wind beneath those wings. You've done that for me for going on 20 years now, Robert and I. And we've had a lot of good success, and we've been through a lot of ups and downs together. We've learned in the real world. That's what I love about this. This isn't some theory. This isn't some MBA course. This is stuff that works, folks, in the real world. And it's based on a lot of principles that you see a lot of notable authors, best-selling books and people put out there. But even then, a lot of that stuff is fairly philosophical. And at some point, you have to get down to brass tacks. You have to get down to, how do I actually do this at a tactical level? How do I get the right people in the right seats doing the right things? How do I organize processes and procedures? How do I create a culture, set a vision? And there are actually ways, methods to do that. And we've covering that in this entire series. Today, we're talking about these 4 key pillars. So Stace, why don't you give us the overview of the pillars before we dive into the weeds on each one of them?
Yeah, in order to have a syndication business, you have to raise capital, do deals, manage processes, and lead people. So those are the 4 things that you need to actually scale your syndication business. And in your Secrets of Successful Syndication presentation, build your brand, build your network, you say is the most important
Just because it is.
presentation.
Just saying it. It's the most
And
important.
And having worked with a lot of syndicators, a lot of people think they have an investor list, and then they go find the deal and they realize they don't really have an investor list. So one of the first pillars to get in place is raising capital. And in order to raise capital, you need a network. So we can dive into what is your infamous talk, build your brand and build your network.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that. So the punchline of the whole thing is, when you build your brand, which is your reputation in the marketplace, how people feel about you. Do they trust you in 2 key areas? Do they trust your ethics, and do they trust your competency? People trust you and your ethics and your competency. You have a brand, a trustworthy brand. That's number 1. Number 2 is a network. How many people feel that way about you? If it's only a few, you don't have a lot of opportunity. If you have millions, you have a big business. Most of us are going to be somewhere in between and always wanting to add to that list. So every single day, every single minute of every single day, you should be focused on building your brand, building your network. And everything that you do is painting a picture of who you are, and whether you're trustworthy or not. And it's little things. You don't even have to have a live deal. It's how you show up on social media. It's the things you post. It's what you say. It's how you look. It's how you talk. It's who you're seen with. I mean, there's a lot of parts. We have a kind of a process we teach where it starts with just, how do you show up? Do you walk, talk, look the part? Who are you associated with? Next one is, who endorses you? What kind of endorsements do you have? Next thing is, what have you accomplished? What can you point to on your resume saying, yes, I've done this? And then at some point you have consistency. How long have you been doing this? Robert and I have been doing the Real Estate Guys radio since 1997. I don't care how talented you are. If you start today, you cannot compete with that aspect of our resume. We've been doing it since 1997. The only people that can compete with that are people that have been doing it since 1997. Just the fact that we've been doing it for so long and still around is part of our brand. It's part of what has made us now, we're kind of the elder statesmen of the space. I don't know that there's too many people doing what we do that have been doing it as long as we have, right? So we wear that a little bit as a badge of honor, but it says something. So all of those things are the things that you do. And those are kind of philosophical, but like I said in the opening, is you got to kind of get down to brass tacks. So what Staci and her team does is they take people who have this goal. this vision, this idea, okay, I got to build my brand and build my network, which begs the question, how do I do that? Well, strategically, I just laid out some things. The next step is, how do you implement those strategies at a tactical level so that they're happening on a regular basis? Because I don't know about you, but if you've tried to keep up on social media and posting and writing newsletters and keeping your database organized and then getting into phone conversations with people and keeping detailed notes, all of that is a lot of work. But the reason the payoff comes is if you build your brand, build your network, build your brand, build your network, build your brand, build your network, at some point when you put a deal in front of that network based on the power of your brand and the size of that network, it should fund. And so that's why you spend all your time and effort building that brand, building that network. And that network will not only bring you money, it will bring you deals too. And at some point you go from having to chase money and chase deals to what I call gravitational pull, and they'll be coming to you. And once you get there, boy, you've broken, out of orbit and into orbit, and you're being pulled back down to earth. Your business takes on a momentum all itself. So Stace, talk a little bit about the process when you put people through the 3-day. They come to you, they're just getting started, they've made up their mind they want to do the syndication business, and you realize the first thing you have to do is raise capital, and the first thing you have to do to raise capital is build your brand, build your network. How do you help people figure all that out?
Yeah, well, we do it with both people who are brand new and even with people who have a syndication business who don't have the proper infrastructure in place to actually scale it. So getting clear on your avatar. So knowing who your target market is. And in that same presentation, you talk about identifying who your avatar is and then identifying the outer ring, which is who influences them. And then the outer ring from there is who influences the influencers. And then coming up with a marketing strategy to go after the influencers and then build in your positioning. Because if you say, don't be Waldo, don't go in the same door everybody's going into. So we'll develop a strategic marketing plan to go after their target avatar through the influencers and do it in a way that the positioning is through the back door, not the front door, which is crowded. And then the other thing that we do is we have a saying, or I have a saying, if it's not on the calendar, it doesn't exist. So getting a heartbeat of a rhythm out there. So social media, podcasting, third-party events that they attend, getting your face, your brand, your message out there and on repeat is really important to stay in front and relevant to your audience. So that consistency is key. And we do that by putting it on the calendar. So if it's on the calendar, you time block, and you're a big proponent of time blocking. We time block and we execute. And if they don't do their part, we do a lot of it for them. So we have writers on staff who write for us and write on behalf of our clients. And so we continue to execute as much as we can, pushing them when they're having their resistance. And then, phone calls, the one-on-one sales calls start happening and they start generating some success. They go to your sales training, so they learn how to actually close instead of just have feel-good conversations. So we teach them how to convert their one-on-ones to actually closing and raising capital. And then raising capital is even further than that. It's onboarding your investors and communicating with them. So then you create raving fans that then tell their friends and you get more. So taking it full cycle from just building your brand, getting your message out to your ideal avatar, positioning yourself in the marketplace, and then having those one-on-one conversations and making the onboarding experience for that investor amazing, and then making the success of the deal successful, and then communicating to the investors all along the way so they feel very safe and supported that and happy to be an investor in your deal.
Yeah. Now we could actually do, especially because this is just the love of my, this is one of my loves. I could turn this into, a whole 8-part series and hours of training all by itself, but I don't want to do that. I think we've covered the high notes. The important part is that, building a brand, building a network is fundamental to raising capital. You do that by creating steady, consistent brand imaging and communication. that ultimately deal with one-on-one conversation with prospective investors, where you're going to flush out their needs, wants, desires, goals, and objectives. And then you're going to help them find deals that put their money to work in a way that's meaningful to them. When you master that, you have the basis of half of a syndication business, because half of it is raising capital. The other half of it is the next topic we're going to cover, which is actually doing deals. Right. And your brand and your network are fundamental to attracting deals too. If you have a reputation in the marketplace of being the low bidder, or being the person who never closes, or being the person who's impossible to do business with, then you're not going to have many deals come your way. The market's going to figure you out, and you're always going to be at the bottom of the list. So, when you're selling to raise capital, but you're also selling to make it into, especially in multi-bid situations, where in competitive marketplace, we see this happen all the time in multifamily, where a lot of bids get accepted and then they get filtered through, and then you kind of get best and final, and you're going to go through a competition with 2 or 3 other people to compete to get that deal. And so your brand is going to be important to that. So Stace, let's talk a little bit about when you have syndicators coming in who are either getting started or already active doing deals. How do you help them organize that doing deal part of it so that it's scalable?
Yeah, so during the 3-day, we actually map out a deal timeline. So a lot of syndicators don't have any of it documented. They maybe have been doing it successfully, but there's no documentation around it. They can't really execute through a team. Sometimes it's Groundhog Day, where they reinvent the wheel and solve the same issue every day, because it's not documented. So we create a deal timeline, and then also process map, which is basically workflow, how a deal should happen. Like we may decide that they want to be the operator, or maybe they want to partner with an operator. So how do we vet that person? How do we do our due diligence on that operator? And then the same would be true for deals. How do we do our due diligence on a deal and know if it actually fits our personal syndication philosophy which we covered in video 1, and then how we're going to structure it to be a win-win. So we map all of that out so that they can know pretty quickly if a deal comes across their plate, or if they see it, that it is in alignment with their vision, mission, values, and their personal syndication philosophy, or if it's not. And if it is, then it goes to phase 2 of due diligence, where they can dive deeper and see if it's really in alignment. Then they can test it out with their investors to see if it's a match. And then we can actually structure it a win-win offering that is best for the investors, the syndication business, and the community, wherever that deal is.
Yeah. And I think the important part, as you can probably hear, is when you have clarity on where you're at in a process and what the next step is, you can move through that process very quickly. And anybody with any level of real estate experience knows the best deals go quickly. And so you want to be able to get through a thorough, responsible process fast, so you can get to a go, no go decision, so you can get to, yes, let's make an offer. And then you can actually execute on getting that offer made quickly, knowing that you've already got a set of investors preliminary lined up that have expressed at least a degree of interest. So you've got a degree of confidence that you, in fact, can get that thing funded without getting too far out over your skis. It's always this tug of war. What Robert Helms calls the milk and cereal theory is where, I get too many deals and not enough money. I get too much money and not enough deals. And anytime you go to do a deal, unless you actually get the money in the bank, then you've got to go chase the money within the closing time frame. And so it's really important, if you have a strong brand and a great network, as we talked about before, you have a process for getting the deal vetted so that it's all the way ready to be turned into offering documents that you can close on. And all of those things can happen quickly. Then you have a lot less stress in your life and a lot more risk. And in competitive situations where you're being asked to go hard on the offer and put real money at risk, or you have to spend some serious due diligence money on the deal, and you're not even confident you've got the capital lined up, that can be stressful. But the other thing is if you spend all your time trying to make sure you've got the capital lined up, by the time you turn around to go make a real commitment to the deal's gone. And or you're running through some of your contingency dates because you can't execute through that due diligence process fast enough, and that's stressful too. Because now you've got to take real risk with investor dollars before you've had a chance to do your homework. And if something were to go sideways down the road and you open up your file and go, yeah, I should have checked that, but I didn't have time, that just doesn't look good. So if you're going to take that risk, at least do it consciously, not because, oh, I should have checked that and I didn't because I forgot. I mean, that's why these checklists, these processes, procedures, of course, every niche is a little bit different. But most deal underwriting and all of that is kind of the same structurally, and then you just have to add the different nuances, especially the particular advisors that you may need to consult with, or reports that you may need to order, depending on the nature and the type of the deal. If you're a smart syndicator, you try to build a business around doing something, working with an operator that's scalable, doing deals that are scalable, so you're not reinventing kind of the offering wheel every single time too. And if the team starts to see some of that, Stace, as I'm sure you do, you let people know this is an expensive way to go. If you're going to do a one-off deal, make it a big one, right? Because you do these little one-off deals, they're going to burn you into the ground. So is there anything else that we need to talk about on the do deals before we kind of get into the process side of it?
Nope, I
Okay.
think we can move on.
Okay. So raise capital is number one, build your brand, build your network, doing deals, which is vetting the deals and potential partners and kind of matching deals with capital. But now you kind of, those are the bigger parts of it, but now getting into the processes, because, it's not just getting the deal closed. You've got to get the deal, you got to operate it all the way to the end or hold an operator accountable. There are processes for returning capital to investors, reporting to them along the way. And if you do all of that stuff right, then you should be pulling referrals and lining up additional capital as you earn the trust of more, bigger parts of your investors' portfolio. They may only give you, maybe somebody's got 5 or 10 million investable and they give you 100,000 to test you out. There's a lot more meat on that bone that you earn by being good in your execution. It's kind of like the after the sale customer service part. So Stacey, talk a little bit about what you mean when you talk about pillar number 4, processes.
Yeah, so every syndication business has 10 core processes. And if you download or request that free report, scale at realestateguysradio.com, I actually go through the 10 core processes in there for a syndication business. And in one of the upcoming videos, we'll go through it as well. But there's 10. So it's how do you perform each of those 10 core functions consistently? So the internal team has a consistent experience, the capital raising team has a consistent experience, the potential investor, the investor, and the people you do deals with all have a consistent experience. And you're able to track the financial side of it as well, so you can create consistent results in terms of revenue, cash flow, profitability. So it's the core processes, and the way we map in terms of processes is we do it all role based. So it's the fund manager will do this, or the operating team will do this, or the accounting team will do this, or the sales rep will do this. And then everything is linked to a standard operating procedure of exactly how we do that step, so that you can, if you need to delegate, you can delegate to someone, and it's in an assembly line so they know where they're fitting in the process, so that there's better handoffs. And it just helps with execution. You can just consistently execute.
Well, and the other thing is, and we're relating into this, but you can't get people in the right seats until you define the seats, right? You have to define that. And you might say, well, yeah, what do you say to that, that syndicator who says, yeah, but I'm doing everything, so I don't need to go through all this.
That's fine. You're building a business. You're not scaling a business. You created a job for yourself. And everyone who I talk to who has done that, their spouse is upset because they're not home at night for dinner. They're get burnt out. They aren't serving at the capacity that they really could serve, because they're limited to their own personal capacity instead of leveraging, which is what syndication now is all about, is leverage. And investing in real estate is about leverage. So leveraging the resources of other people's time, technology, skill set, expertise to go bigger, faster. So it's limiting, and they're not really scaling a business. They're just building a job for themselves.
Well, you can imagine if you were I don't want to use the word one-man band, but let's say you were conducting some type of a play or a skit, a multi-character skit, but you're playing all the parts. And so as you're doing that, as you're shifting from role to role, you have to really know your role. You have to know what role you're playing, what your mannerisms are, what your lines are, where you're supposed to be on set or on stage. And if you don't have that clearly defined in your mind, it's just a big jumbled monologue, which is a very different thing than watching a skilled performer execute. Robin Williams was great at this. He could bounce in and out. He could he could have two people having a conversation with each other. And he could bounce back and forth from character to character. Ventriloquists are great at this, right? You watch somebody who's a skilled ventriloquist. They have the ability to be both characters at the same time, so much so that you forget that they're only one person talking. It seems like there's two people talking. So if you want to look like a professional business, if you want to set the foundation for being a professional business, you have to begin to have clearly defined roles and responsibilities. And even if you're the only person sitting in every seat, organizing that in such a way that it is clear about what the role, what the responsibilities are, and the process for how each one of those procedures get done is really, really important, because that puts on the face, the aura of being more professional and bigger than you are, but it also sets the table for actually being able to begin to integrate people in and create the thing that I think every entrepreneur should be after, is how much of this can I get off my plate? How can I grow the business so that I'm no longer the bottleneck? How can I get this to the point where I'm actually free and the business doesn't own me, but I own the business? And this is where it starts, in processes and systems. Okay. Anything on that before we move on to people who are going to pull the levers in these processes that we put together?
No.
Okay. So key pillar number 4 is people. And so now what we've effectively done is we've said, okay, we're going to go raise money. We know that that's the most important thing. We have to be able to raise money, build our brand, build our network. And part of that is going to help us do deals. And we're going to set up processes for those core functions and all the after the sale functions. So everything that has to happen in the business, everything from, raising money, finding deals, to the accounting and filing of returns, and making sure you have the right supplies on hand. And I mean, everything, right? Everything is going to get figured out. And then once you've got these processes developed, the idea of delegating them to people who are going to operate those processes based on what we covered a couple of videos ago about sweet spot. You're going to have people. So this is now the concept of right people in the right seat. So we've defined the seats. Talk a little bit about right people.
Yeah, well, we did talk about this a little bit in the sweet spot video as well. Getting the right people in the right seats is putting them in a seat where they get it and they want it and they have the capacity to do it. And then once you have the right person in the right seat, leading, managing, and holding them accountable to the success of what that seat looks like. So if you have somebody who's maybe a sales rep for you and they're raising capital, if you're not doing it yourself, there's some metrics there that you'll want to track. Or even within yourself, because you're sitting in that seat, you need to be able to say, am I hitting the mark for where I need to be in terms of capital raising, or the number of deals, or lead generation, or number of one-on-one sales calls. So having those metrics so we can track if we're on track or not, if we're hitting the mark or not. And then also if we have the right people in the right seats, because if we're not hitting those numbers, then we don't have the right person in the right seat and we need to reevaluate and readjust. But we hold the accountability to the process. So it's not a moving target. So there's a level of consistency that you provide as a leader to the people who you are delegating to, that says, this is the process and this is what I'm holding you accountable to, and I'm not going to change it on you. It boosts confidence. It creates drive and momentum in that person, because they know if what they're shooting for, they can actually achieve. And you do that on repeat, and you keep giving it to your A players, and they take on more and more and more, which allows you to free up to do more of what your sweet spot is, which is usually building the front end of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this is the idea that any one of these pillars, they have to be growing equally. right? A
Mhm.
business is going to get very, if it's a wheel, if you can imagine each one of these are spokes on a wheel, if one is long and one is short, it's going to be a bumpy ride. If you can imagine they're a set of pillars and you're trying to lay a foundation for something, a business you're going to build on these pillars, and they're not even, if you're trying to grow the business, you've got to grow these things together.
Mhm.
And it's a little bit of art, it's a little bit of science, and we're here talking, I think, a little bit about both of that. But the point is, you can't even begin to do the work if you haven't identified the core functions, those core pillars. And so the purpose of this video was to explain that to you, is that you absolutely have to have a system, a process, a focus on raising capital. You absolutely have to have a system and a process and a focus on doing deals. And a lot of syndicators stop there, but there's more. You have to have a process for creating processes. That's what Organized to Scale does. You have to have a system, systems in place that you can train people to, procedures, so that you have the ability to add people as needed as the business demands it. And so that it doesn't burn out the people who are already there, first and foremost with you, so that everybody can have balance, if you will, in terms of, not having the business eat them alive, because that can't last. And then
Mhm.
ultimately, you have to have people who are going to be doing all that, because this is a people business and you're going to be building an organizational relationship with the marketplace. The marketplace is going to get to know your brand, which is an extension of you as the syndicator, the entrepreneur, but scaling makes that brand organizational. And you're still going to be the face of it, probably, although you don't have to be. Um, and you're still going to be the heartbeat of it, and people are going to be following your lead, which means you have to do a lot of work on yourself too, in addition to working on the business. But if you're focusing on these four key pillars and devoting yourself to doing a good job, then eventually your business will begin to gel, it will begin to take shape. And for me, one of the things that Staci was closing out with was this concept of accountability. I suck at holding people accountable. I'm just not good at it. I don't like it, and I'm not very good at it. So what I realized quickly was, if I was going to have a business, I had to have somebody that was that one person who was going to hold everybody else accountable. And for me, that's Staci. Staci drives the team and she holds everybody accountable. And when I get upset, she buffers so that those people don't feel the brunt of that. And then she figures out, okay, yes, I understand you're upset, but it's really not them, it's you. And she'll tell me that. It's like, okay. And I have to be willing to accept that. Or sometimes it's like, hey, this thing is not right. We just discovered, oh, somebody's not in the right seat, or this process isn't working. And that's just all part of the feedback. That's part of a team playing as a team, making adjustments along the way and fine tuning this operational machine that is not a fixed machine. I don't even like to use the word machine. It's a living organism. When I illustrate what a business is, I use a tree. A tree is dynamic. You've got a root system, which is your mission, vision, values. You've kind of got the trunk, which is the accounting, the legal, and the technology that supports the three main functions, which is onboarding investors and capital, invest in onboarding deals, and onboarding team members to operate everything. And that is all very dynamic. It's growing and you're nurturing it, fertilizing it, and pruning it, and it just never ends, right? If the minute you stop caring for that tree, it dies. It's not a machine you just put in place, push the go button, and go take a nap. Business doesn't work that way.
Mhm.
So anyway, so that's kind of my take on that. Anything more you want to say on these four key pillars, Stace, before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I just think, like you said, like when we're moving on to the next one, we'll talk more in detail about it. But really knowing which ones you're doing well and which ones you're not, and trying to do them all at the same time so they elevate together is important.
Yeah, again, this can seem very intimidating. I just want to reassure you, it is so worth it, because it allows you to be free. On a personal note, just so you know some of the backstory, my wife was diagnosed in 2015 with stage 4 cancer. And so for four years, a little over four, almost 5 years, she fought it. And the last year and a half were really bad. But as soon as she got the diagnosis, I realized that I was operating the business as basically a one-man operator. Robert and I would do the content together, but pretty much everything that happened under the hood, I was personally responsible for. And the challenge with that was that I was already maxed out. And now all of a sudden I needed to make more money to care for my wife, and I needed to free up time to spend with her. And those two things seemed mutually exclusive. But what I did is I read Gary Keller's book, The One Thing, and I asked myself that focusing question: what's the one thing I can do that'll make everything else I need to do either easier or unnecessary? And that one thing was, I need to build a team. And I thought, oh my gosh, well, I don't feel very qualified to do that. What's the one thing I need to do that? I need to find the one person who can build the team for me. And that's when I reached out to Staci and said, hey, you did this for us successfully before. Would you be willing to do it again? And she entered back into the picture, and it was game changing. I was able to spend a lot of time with my wife in the final months of her life. We were able to have the resources necessary to take care of her. And the side benefit of all of that was that we laid the foundation to be able to build a scalable business. And I had more free time to pursue new interests and new ventures that synergize with the core business. So I might not have ever gotten there had it not been for the adversity with my wife. It's a terrible way to have to get there. I don't ever want anybody watching this to have to go through that to get there. But what I will encourage you to do is, when your back's up against a wall, whether it's your health, whether it's your family, whether it's just your personal energy, your level of commitment, or your joy in life, or in my case, my wife's illness, whatever it is, when your back's up against a wall and you need to find a way to continue to produce an income and grow a business, but get some of your life back, this is the secret. This is how you do it. And it's the reason you do it. It's the reason you take your risk as being an entrepreneur. So don't be overwhelmed by all of this. Be encouraged, but it will take a little bit of being upset about your current situation to get you to implement the changes you have to make to go from where you are to where you want to be. And I think most people who are operating in the S quadrant tend to either burn out or live a very small business relative to their potential. And if you can manage to do the things we're talking about to move into the B quadrant, where you own a business and it doesn't own you, then you have the chance to be free. And the great thing about the syndication business is you have unlimited resources. There's unlimited money out there. There's unlimited deals out there. The only reason you're not getting more of it is because you don't have this stuff in place. Get this stuff in place and it becomes a game changer. We've had people come into this business, come to our seminar, and within 5 years raise $100 million. Within a few years after that, raise another 100 or $200 million. I mean, not just one person, but several. So it's definitely doable, and even if you had a fraction of that level of success, it's still pretty darn good and better than what most folks are out there going to be able to achieve just by investing in their own account. So be encouraged, stick with us, because we're going to come back. In the next video, we're going to be talking about what's missing in your syndication business and what you can do about it. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Before you go, three things. Number one, subscribe. When you subscribe, you build up our subscription base, and that helps us reach more people. But even more important, it helps us attract great guests and subject matter experts to share their ideas and information with you. Number two, click that notification bell to make sure that when we do post a new video on this hot topic, you're notified right away. And number three, share. Please share this information with friends. Help them get on board this bus. Help them protect and preserve their wealth to take advantage of what's going on in the world today. All right. Thanks so much, and we'll see you in the next video.